Is it going to
There
sync?
we are.
Okay, there.
Well,
They were
hello,
being recorded now.
hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Inside Movies Galore episode, where we are continuing our
Power panel.
anime month, Anime August, and today's film, it was originally filmed in 2009, and it was directed by Mamoru Hosoda. I believe that's how you say his name. Brandon, am I saying it correctly?
Mamoru Hosoda. Although Jacob probably would do it better than me.
Yeah, I was like, you went to Brandon for pronunciation advice?
Well, I just so you know, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't ask me to do it. I'd probably end up doing it like that guy on
Even
Iron
though-
Chef in Futurama.
Even though I am the host, animations from Japan are not my forte. So me hosting this episode will be a new thing for me. So if I screw up or mess up anything, it's on me.
I thought that was a joke in the pre-show. You're hosting?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
So apparently this film was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures in Japan. And the film's cast includes Ryunosuke Kamiki, Nanami Sakuraba, Mitsuki Tanimura, Siko Fuji.
Why isn't Jake reading these?
Ayumu Saito.
I'm amused by the process.
So here is the information for this film. A student tries to fix a problem he accidentally caused in Oz, a digital world, while pretending to be the fiancé of his friend at her grandmother's 90th birthday.
So, essentially, this movie is Ready Player One crossed with The Proposal, crossed with that Die Hard movie that has the fire sale.
A little bit, and actually, I was going to touch on this later, but Ready Player One, Ernest Cline has acknowledged this film as part of his inspiration for Ready Player One. So that's pretty fun little tidbit there. But and more on that later. But basically, it takes place in a virtual world called Oz, where you could kind of imagine if Google, Amazon, Facebook, Skype, pretty much anything was merged together, that's what you'd have. Yeah.
So, since we have gotten what it's about out of the way, why don't we go to first impressions? Dustin, since you missed last week's, why don't we have you go first? And what did you think of this film?
Okay, well, when it started out and they introduced the premise, it's like, oh, just come pretend to be my boyfriend, and her family is like kind of really pushy. It's like, oh, so you two are together, huh? You know, I'm making gestures that you guys can't see, and it's like, oh my god, it's gonna be one of those. So a little bit of some background story on my experiences with anime. I have a friend who me and another friend kind of pick on for liking anime. It's not ever you guys. And the joke that we make is, it's like, well, all anime is porn, right? And so it used to like really bother him. And there would be moments where it's like, oh, okay, well, just pick a show. Just, prove us wrong. Just pick a show that you watch a lot and just show us. And it's like, oh, this one. It says you were watching this on Netflix. And like, we click it. And the first image we see is like some girl with giant boobs, like tied to a chair. And me and my other friend are just looking at each other. It's like, knew it. We knew it. And so when the premise was set up like that, like, I thought, it's gonna be one of those weird ones, and it was indeed weird, but it turned out pretty good. I was really surprised by all the directions it went into.
It did go a lot of directions, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It actually felt like it was like 5 hours long. It was like, is this Fritz Lang's Metropolis? Jesus. It kind of felt like I was watching Metropolis. Like, I wasn't bored. It was just kind of like...
So you think the
Can
pacing...
I watch
Do you think the pacing was slow at all?
Pretty... I thought this was like it felt like a 10-hour miniseries. What do you think? Yeah, there wasn't really anything that you could cut. Like, pretty much everything we saw was relevant to the plot line, which ended up being like very intricate and like full. But it felt quite long, even though it moved at kind of like a brisk pace.
Well, to be honest, this was the first time that I have actually seen this film, but I was kind of preparing myself animation-wise with several other animation watchings before this, because I just recently got a bootlegged 17-film Studio Ghibli collection.
Oh,
wow. Although the UPC code is accepted in my movie app, so go figure.
Well, apparently some releases are crappy enough that they just look like bootlegs.
Well, this is printed and it looks like it would have been bought in a store, and yet we can't find anything much on the company. So, but anyways, I was watching some Studio Ghibli. I watched a few animation features online just to get like a more of a feel for different anime styles. And this one, yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Dustin. There's a lot of Real Player One vibe in this, and I mean, this is a virtual world based on Oz, which go figure is a land of imagination.
It's an imagination land.
Well, it is, and except this world is kind of you have to have an avatar to go into it. Mm-hmm. So,
and like everybody has an account.
Yep.
And it's like integrated into all of society, which kind of feels like a bad idea in retrospect.
But in any case, there's a young man who evidently is friends with this girl, and I'm not sure whether they integrated that, that the two were affianced right offhand, but she just goes and asks him, "Hey, can you come to my 90th, my grandmother's 90th birthday party?" And he's like, getting all flustered in the face. But anyway,
yep, it starts out exactly like those animes that, yeah.
Well, more like she's like, "You on a part-time job?" And like him and his friend are like, yeah. We're doing our part-time job. Well, the part-time job is to go to the country with me. And then suddenly, okay.
Like, all right, what's the gag?
I have to say that I really rather enjoyed this one. I mean, it had a lot going on. It went in several different directions, and I wasn't sure which direction it was going in. But once it came about it was definitely unique the way it came about, and for a first-time watch, I thought it was unique. So moving on to Brandon, when did you first come across the
film? I came across it when it first came out on DVD, and it's been a while now. It's been a number of years, hasn't it?
It's like 10 years old apparently.
Yeah.
Well, not that long though. It came out on DVD not that many years ago, but I can't remember how many. But I remember wanting to see it pretty much right off the bat because I had heard so many cool things about it, and it definitely has a cover that draws one in. And being an actual anime fan, and I also enjoyed the other film that I'd seen from Hosoda, the Girl Who Leapt Through Time. So I had actually been following this a little bit since then, knowing this was coming out. And I was very much impressed by Girl Who Leapt Through Time. So coming into this, I knew a little bit more of what to expect and really enjoyed it. I also got to see it twice recently, once in July and then once in August, in preparation for the for our top 10 anime movie list, which it definitely made one of those top slots. I really enjoyed the movie itself. It had a lot of cool things about it, developing an imaginative world and doing things in a way that really he is the director is capable of doing. So in general,
Yeah.
a very good first impression.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
this is a movie that was really only possible in animation.
Right.
it was definitely. I would have to agree. I mean, there were a lot.
I mean, Ready Player One did come out and as a live, well, sort of live action film, and so I do think that it could have been done in live action. It's it's a couple of different storylines. You can actually present it as a romantic comedy in a lot of but with a lot of sci-fi and futuristic aspects.
Yeah, and I agree. I think either Spielberg or someone like maybe a Guillermo del Toro or something could do it in live action, but I do agree. This film is an argument for animation as a separate art form and not just cartoons. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the way. Yeah.
And
Anyway,
Jake, when were you introduced to this film?
This one, kind of like Brandon said, he actually introduced me to The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and I loved it, and I thought it was a great film. And when I realized that Hosoda had a film, I don't recall if I think I heard about it when it hit theaters. I know that it was submitted for Oscar consideration, and that's something I have frequently harped on. That it caught my attention. As soon as I could see it, I did see it. It took me a while to get a copy myself, but I did, and I saw it, and I also watched it in preparation for our best of anime film list. That time I actually watched it in English, so I've seen it once in English and at least 3 times in Japanese. So I've seen it a few times. I've become a very big fan of Hosoda's films. I've seen all of his independent releases, starting with The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and going through this year's Mirai. He's a very, very, very talented director. He has a very strong tendency toward family-themed films. Most of his films have to do with family and relationships in family, and that's always something that appeals to me. And again, there is that Ready Player One vibe, which again, I know that this film helped inspire the novel, and I know that there was sort of a cyclical, almost a Mobius effect between this one, Ready Player One, and Sword Art Online, that they all ended up influencing each other. The novel and this movie influenced the anime of SAO, and the anime of SAO influenced Ready Player One, the movie. So it's kind of, they all tie in together. So there's that sort of connection too. But I had not thought of the proposal. But now that we're talking about this, I want to see Betty White play the grandmother in the American remake.
I mean, it really was the proposal. It's like, hey, pretend to be my fiance. Okay. Oh, we're going to your countryside mansion.
Right.
But your family owns everything and is involved in everything. Okay.
Before we move on to the plot, I'm just going to say it out there. Spoiler warning for everyone. We're going to discuss this movie in detail. So, moving on to the plot of the film. So, apparently, the young couple goes to this 90th birthday party, and there is a member of the family that has actually been excommunicated for about 10 years. And not only that, but while the young couple was there, the young man, I believe his name was Shenji.
Talking about the main guy, the hired boyfriend.
The hired boyfriend. The hired boyfriend's account was hacked into by a super ultra hacker, and took over the Avatar land of Oz, so to speak. And
so because our main character has like admin and like technician permissions, when his account gets taken over, the mysterious hacker is able to start causing a lot of damage to the infrastructure of this thing, and eventually is able to just take control of Oz.
Not to mention well, you probably should be mentioned, the way this happened is this kid is like an uber math nerd, and this formula was sent out that was the encryption code for the Oz. And he didn't know it. No one else knew it. It was sent out as can you solve this? Good idea to randomly solve email that you get out of nowhere. It's a really good idea.
I always do. It helps.
It helps
me to feel proud of myself to send stuff back to strangers.
I think they ended up saying it was about 20-odd people worldwide who solved the problem.
I think it was 54.
Something like that. He ends up taking the heat for it early on because they actually post his picture on the news. And everyone's like, why did you do this? And he's like, they asked a question. I didn't mean to.
It's like, I didn't do it, I swear. And then he finds out, it's like, oh my God, I did it. See, you admit it.
Yes. And then you've got one of the people in the family is a very, 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 very law conscious and yet very inept police officer. And then you have two little toddler brats who think they're police officers, and they act as spoilers frequently.
And of course, you've got one family member that works for the military, another that seems to have something to do with ships.
As a fisherman, he owns a fleet.
The placement of the movie was actually purposeful as far as where they placed it geographically, because in that town, in the actual real town, there is a family that has a similar influence that he had used as a basis of the current family in the book, in the movie, which, as we can see, there's a reason why it has influence, because they have little tendrils in everything.
Right. The family goes back, I think they said 16 generations, and they've kind of sort of fallen on hard times. They're no longer filthy rich, but they still have those tendrils in all these different areas. You got the police officer, you got the fisherman, you got the doctor, you've got the guy who sells computers to the government and universities, you got the
secret
kid
agent
who's still in high school who's a baseball star. What's that?
The secret agent. What do you do in the defense force that you can just there's a character who's in like the special defense force, and he just shows up with this really advanced like truck thing with like a radar dish or something, or with some kind of like antenna on it, and they're like, what do you do? Like, how can you just take that? It's like, I can't tell you. It's like, oh, all right.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Well, he just says it's classified, but yeah, there are doctors, and it's nuts.
Or what is that
Japan
thing?
is proud of their defense force, including in Godzilla movies,
Right.
where they have like zapper dishes that zap people. Doesn't they use the Zap Godzilla? They have these like laser blasters and things like that.
And it's also, you should also mention that there's this kid in the family, is in middle school, who's a uber computer nerd,
Correct.
who is a Kazuma is his name. He is a very his avatar is known as King Kazuma, and is a star, if you will, online in the battle regions. He's his martial arts star of sorts. And he ends up, becoming integral to the plot. And
Yeah,
basically, yeah.
when they're explaining what Oz is, like they show like all the different things you can do in Oz,
Mhm.
and part of the montage is you see this character just beating up a bunch of other characters and winning like the virtual martial arts championships, and that's this kid's character.
And actually, I think that's worth mentioning. The movie starts with essentially a PSA for Oz. It basically is a commercial for Oz, and it's everything feels and looks and feels like an official, like, press release, but it's a really, really good, efficient means of world building. They basically managed to fit almost everything into that little PSA.
Well,
And, yeah.
and also what seems to be going on is a baseball game for a high school.
Yes.
Which only one of the family members seems to be watching the entire time.
Uber fan.
So
Wasn't that son that's playing in the game? So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like the world is falling apart around them, and she just wants to watch baseball.
oh hey, it's her son playing.
Yeah. But,
well, evidently all of these family members are trying to come to this birthday party because evidently the grandmother is her heart is weak, correct?
mhm.
So all of this goes on at an occasion that should have just been an occasion. Instead, it became an all-out a movie about the reasons why you should do everything together
Mm.
as a family.
Mhm.
At least that's the plot to me.
Mhm.
So
Well, yeah, you do have this family because of what's happening in this worldwide device. This alternate virtual realm is falling apart, and it's taking the regular world down with it. And then you get this is the major plot spoiler, is when you have the death of a family member that could possibly have been prevented if this was not all going on. And they kind of split into two camps. Most of the guys in the family are like, we got to take the fight to them and end this. And Kenji definitely jumps on board with that and says, yeah, we got to do this. We got to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. And then most of the women are like, what are you doing? You're playing games. You're wasting time. We need to, it's not an exact split, but that's kind of how it ends up playing for a little while. They all think it's all silly in games, and they don't really realize the stakes until later on.
The hacker is going to like destroy nuclear facilities with essentially an orbital bomb, and they're like, but it's a game, right? No, you idiots.
No.
Yeah, that moment when they took the ice that they were using to cool supercomputers, trying to save the world, saying, we needed the ice for something important. Y'all weren't doing anything important.
Yeah. It's like that moment in Christmas Vacation. You're not doing anything constructive.
Yeah. That's one thing that I was getting to, kind of like a National Lampoon-ness in the family, kind of like like everybody's odd, and yet everything works at the same time.
I think they get along a little better than the Griswolds.
Yeah.
They certainly pull together when it counts. It just took a while to get there.
They only really fought with the one guy, whereas the Griswolds kind of always fought against each other. And like you get the feeling with the Griswolds that everybody kind of hates everybody else to a degree, but not here. Like this is a very big, very close family. Like I didn't even bother trying to remember people's names because they say them once and it's like, oh, well, this is, and then there's like 2 minutes of names because there are like 30 of these people.
Not only that, but this family has history.
Even a joke. Did you get that? Did you get all that? It's like, yeah.
This family has history apparently too, because apparently their great grandfather fought in a war where they apparently were like samurais of some sort.
Yeah, they have their family history goes back to feudal Japan, and they have like they have antiques from feudal Japan just lying around the house. I think my favorite scene in this kind of deals with that because I'm sure we'll discuss it in more detail, but one character hears something like really upsetting, and they kind of look around and they go off to a corner like full of junk, and they pull out like a naginata and come after somebody with it. It's just like, you fuck, where's like, oh, here's this medieval weapon that this real medieval weapon that we just have in the corner. It's like, yeah.
He shows her battle chops.
The naginata. But, the way this thing is, I mean, a lot of it looks like, when you look at plot, that this is going several different directions, but it all connects at the end. Everything, including the hacking program, is connected to this one storyline. It really is one storyline that appears to be in 5 or 6 different places, but at the end you realize it's all in the same basic concept. It's all about this family. It all comes back to the grandmother and her connection to her family. And that's pretty cool. I mean, to think that her and her connection to the family even connects to almost world annihilation.
I thought it was kind of cool how everyone in the whole world backed Natsuki or Natsuki or when she and then that was kind of cool how the whale was like a king avatar or whatnot, and gave her like a cool unknown artifact, which
I thought it was kind of cool.
I'm not even sure if we figured out what the unknown artifact was.
Yeah, there's
a power.
For a little bit of background, during that opening montage when they're just talking about like what Oz is, they show these 2 large whale things. It's like, these are, what exactly did they call them? Like the gods, the kings?
They called them the guardians of Oz, or the
parents of Oz.
They're basically a blue whale and a pink whale wearing crowns. This is anime. I mean, you had to have something like that. And as soon as they had that part, I was like, well, that's going to be important later. And they show up to help during the like final battle. But it would have been nice to know a little bit more about like, what was that anyway?
I always liked how they called him John and Yoko. It made me wonder how many Beatles fans were upset by that. But
I didn't even catch that. That's great.
I just thought it was fun. But anyway, there's things like that could be considered nods to various things here and there. And actually, one thing that I do like very much is how they use the very Japanese game of Hanafuda as a thread through the whole thing. I don't know crap about the rules of that game, and even having watched the film 4 times, I don't think I know the rules any better.
Koi
But
koi.
I like how integral
You
to
just
the
shout
plot.
that and you win. That seems to be how it works.
It has something to do with you increase your point values or something. It's like I'm not sure how that works, but this makes at least 2 shows that I've seen where you get the show Chihaya Furu being the other one, where you get this very traditional Japanese card game that ends up being integral to a good story. I find that kind of interesting. The fact that the cards look cool kind of helps too, but that's that whole casino sequence actually really is a visually impressive sequence. There's a lot of visually impressive sequences, but I think that one really was one of the good ones. But but I guess we haven't really got to the art yet, have we?
Oh no, like this is sort of a difficult discussion because this movie had so much going on at once. It's kind of hard to like pick something and stick with it.
Haven't really done much. I know y'all have mentioned there are a lot of characters, but we haven't really talked much about the characters. And there are some really important ones. There are some really, like, I think we touched on Kazuma, touched a little bit on Kenji and Natsuki, who are the main two.
Why don't we talk about them two as a whole?
I was going to say there's 4 to 5 that I would consider important, and that's only if you consider Love Machine a character. Which, in a way, Love Machine is a character. It is the virus that's taking over. And it does have a will of its own. And Love Machine's creator, and then, of course, the grandmother, and then the two teens at the center of it all. Really, those are the main ones that the story revolves around. The rest of the characters are more supporting cast for that group. At least that's my.
Well, yeah.
And
there is one though that I do want to mention. Mansuke Junichi, who's played by Ichiro Nagai, who is a great voice actor who's been around for years. But he's the fisherman. And I think he's notable because he's that crazy uncle. You know what I mean? Like, he is the one that at the family gatherings, he tells all the long-winded tales. And that's actually, you get a lot of the background for the story because of him doing that. And so I just thought that was kind of an interesting little way of doing that. And then, of course, when they realize the threat that the virus or the AI has, he is one of the first to say, we need to do something, so it's like, so he was one of the more notable ones. But yeah, the main ones, you got Kenji's kind of a weakling. He's kind of a boring, average, everyday guy who lucks into an opportunity to be something more and actually rises to the challenge. I guess that's probably the best way to put it I can think of.
And he is very unique because he can work out codes, algorithms like nothing else. I mean, he can definitely figure out those codes fast enough before the end of the world hits.
Yeah, that was. I don't math so good, so I guess I got to be impressed by someone that can.
So, what do we think about Natsuki?
She's
the girl?
also kind of a regular girl too. She's not really anything too strange. She eventually proves to be a master of Hanafuda, which becomes important. But and she's a little capricious, a little flaky. I mean, that's why she hired a guy in the first place. But
and a lot of it's her connection to her, what is it, uncle? I can't remember whether it's his
great uncle or some such thing.
Yeah, I mean that shows. I feel like a lot of the supposed farce that she puts forward is sort of a way to still mask her continued interest in him.
Mm-hmm.
Which
So yeah, you could all
normally I hate those character types in anime because they usually come off as much ruder, much nastier. But she actually came off as pretty solid for a character, which I have to give them props for that.
I was going to say the two of them actually grow a lot, and you could almost see this as a little bit of a coming of age film for them as well. Just kind of cool.
Well, I know that their relationship became kind of strange when like we said, that uncle that she really liked and enjoyed or hadn't seen in forever. Which at first I thought her excitement was a little bit more than just excitement. Maybe I'm reading too much into the relationship, but. It almost seemed like, especially during the game that they were playing, Kenji, her, and the uncle. It seemed like their relationship was a little bit more than uncle and I don't know, niece.
I think she wanted it to be more. I don't think that they were trying to apply anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Lionsgate just kind of, I think he humored her. He liked that one person in the family didn't hate him.
But yeah, and I think that's something that they play a lot of in a lot of anime, but they play it in other tropes. It's not anime as well. I mean, the young girl who is impressed by the dashing older relative and wanting to get their attention, wanting to get kind of misplaced feelings, almost an Electra complex, so to speak.
Okay.
That's something that's fairly common. Like I said, usually they make those type of characters the tsundere type characters, which this person was not. And tsundere is sort of a character type. There's different character types that they put anime females into. And tsundere is a type that is kind of rude, standoffish, hiding their feelings behind a lot of anger a lot of the times. The kind of people that tend to abuse the ones they love. I'm kind of glad they didn't go that direction with her.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, a good example of one that I remember from the oldest one I saw was in a series called Ranma 1/2, which had a character named Akane, which is one of my least liked characters in anime. Not as much hated as some, but she was, of course, majorly in love with the family doctor, which, of course, unfortunately, her fiance tended to bear the brunt of a lot of that anger.
Okay.
Faded pretty quickly. But anyway.
I mean, I don't know if you would agree with me on that concept, but I think that this has a similarity in that.
I think they're far better poster children for that character type. But I know what you mean. Like, they could have fallen into that trap and they didn't, and that's good. The closest they came to a stock character that annoyed me, and he did annoy me, was the cop.
God.
What was his name?
He was not smart.
He was not smart. He was the one who took the ice from the supercomputer. It almost burned the whole friggin' building down. Almost. And also allowed the AI to get loose from the trap they had set. Because he thought their grandmother needed to be kept cool, which is a nice concept, but he really should have talked to someone first instead of trying to be noble on his own.
Is that a trope of saying that cops are stupid?
No, not necessarily. But the idea of he had the hots for Natsuki, so sort of the quote unquote rival who has no real shot but acts as though they do. I don't know if there's a specific name for that, but that is a trope I've seen a few times.
But he wasn't related to the family at all, was he?
Oh yeah,
cousin.
He was related
he
to
was
the.
yeah.
So I guess
But
cousins are okay. There's a lot of this movie that makes no sense unless you know a lot about like Japanese culture. So I was kind of totally lost during a lot of those parts, and I feel like the way these like
I'm sure there's
what's
a lot of places in America where a second cousin would be behaving that same way.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
like yeah, that, but I was referring more so to like the way people like regard each other,
Oh, yeah.
and especially with that with the game that they keep playing.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Boy.
if you think about it, and I'm from a southern family, so to speak, so I can understand the concept is not that foreign to me how they interact, where you've got a bunch of people who interact around a matriarch, so to speak. I mean, we had that same type of structure when I was a child. And then when the matriarch passed, then the family kind of went their own directions and scattered.
Hmm.
But but the structures were very much the same. They had their games. I mean, our game, for instance, was a good example of the game for our family was Canasta. You weren't allowed to learn the game until you were of a certain age, and then everybody in the family was taught this game. I think I was taught the rules to it, but I don't know how to play it anymore. But that's just an example. So there are American examples that are similar to that, in my opinion, to this family and to their structure. If you have big enough families that have managed to hold themselves together. And there are not everybody's like that, including in Japan. They're not always families that hold themselves together quite like this large family. And that was
because Kenji actually points that out when he's getting ready to be led off in handcuffs by the stupid cop. He takes time to talk to the grandmother, and he's like, I live with my father, and I'm alone most of the time, and this is totally different than anything I've ever experienced, and thank you. I enjoyed this. And I think everyone was very they're all like, oh yes, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Cyber terrorist and go to jail now.
after they tried to lynch him,
Right.
all in that room for being that cyber terrorist.
That was a fun moment. They're just like staring at his picture on the news, like, oh,
Right.
there he is! Get him!
Right.
Do what now? Ah!
But yeah, they do make that point, and they do draw that parallel or that contrast rather of the big versus the small, the kind of the centered family versus the more disconnected one, and yeah, like I said, I thought that was pretty well handled.
Okay.
And of course, Sakai, who is the matriarch, who is a fun character. Like I said, I could. Oh man, now I can see Betty White playing. That would be so great.
Are
At
there
least on her English dub.
are there any other characters that we have not mentioned that we may like to bring to light?
Well, there are a lot of them, so that's kind of the problem.
Did we talk about the great uncle? I mean, so to speak, and Love Machine. Really, they go together.
Well,
Because
yeah.
we talked about his relationship to her, but of course we didn't talk about his relationship to the family. I mean, he kind of shows up kind of out of the blue, and it's obvious he's not welcome.
Well,
But
apparently,
nobody...
apparently there is a story that apparently while the grandfather was still around, there was some money involved, and he stole the money. And apparently, as we find out later, he used the money to fund his project, which ends up being Love Machine. But the military, as we know, got involved and used it for their own gain.
That's actually that big reveal that I was talking about. He confesses that he created the AI that has essentially taken over and crippled the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So he sold it to the U.S. Defense Department, and they let it loose as kind of like a test run. It's like, okay, let's just put it out there and see what happens.
Because
And
always a good idea.
it got completely out of, like, it basically becomes like Skynet. But anyway, so there's a scene where he's confessing to all this, and it's like, they paid me so much money. Like, our family can be like it was, back when Grandpa was alive. Better even. And Grandma's like, you did this? And, like, she just has this, like, look of rage on her face, and then she goes, like, over to, like, the samurai armor and, like, pulls the naginata, like, out of, like, a pile of, like, other gear and, like, takes some swings at him.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about it all is just looking at Love Machine itself which is a funny name for that, but the fact is that she was of course mad also because it turned out that he didn't run away with the money, which of course, as we said before, spoilers, but that she herself had given him the money.
Well, actually, that was never fully revealed because she got angry with him. Now she never said that she did say that. He was on the assumption that she gave it to him. Everybody else was under the assumption that he stole the money. So I don't know whether that was revealed or not.
I got the impression that the grandfather had made some bad investments and that the family felt that was where the money went, and that the grandmother had given him a little bit. That was the impression I got.
That was what I got too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I thought that she was angry at him because she was under the assumption that the money was stolen from the grandfather in some way, shape, or form. Maybe she didn't know the entire story.
I think it was more because he disappeared. Like, he was gone for a while and basically just left, So it was like,
well, she was on the phone all day, calling people she knew, like, in positions of power to try to help, like, mitigate the damage that has been done to just the infrastructure of the country by this AI. And then it's like, oh, you made this? Using my money, you did this? So that was why I felt like I got the impression that they had just given him the money too. So that was why I think she reacted like that.
Okay.
It's like, because she's very clearly upset by all this stuff that has happened, which it's been just a total nightmare, with like utilities being shut down, or worse, like rerouted and sabotaged.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just kind of like, you're responsible for all this chaos,
And yet, on the other hand, he probably didn't know what the military would do with it after he sold the technology. That's another thing, which is why I think that Natsuki reached out to him after her death and was like, well, you realize that grandmother is dead now, And he's like, she's dead? And so he races over to the home, crashes his car, and ends up helping them in the end. So, but what do we think about the message that she gave, that the grandmother gave the family?
That was a cool thing. Like, it was a lot of things that needed to be said, and it, like, set the tone for the rest of the movie. It's like, okay, everybody, come together.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it was, to me, the impressive part started with what the grandmother was able to do, but it really impressed me what they were able to accomplish even after her death. That to me is the epitome of it, because in many cases when somebody like that passes, I mean, just in my own family, for example, when that matriarch passed, the family scattered. But that didn't happen here. They pulled
What?
together
Quiet.
and they moved on.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, there was initially that reaction of they kind of retreated to their own corners, but eventually they pulled together. And once they did, yeah, they got stuff done. And yeah, when someone passes, that's not always, well, it's probably very rarely an easy thing to do. So that's, yeah, definitely impressive. And I like how she specifically told them not to have a really sad funeral and all that stuff, and they ended up pulling through on that as well, and that was pretty cool. I'm sure some of the people who showed up in black were probably like, "Why are these people so happy?" But yeah,
Well, they essentially split into two groups, really. It was the group that was focused purely on the funeral, and we need to make these arrangements, we need to do it. And then there was the group that was focused on fighting Love Machine. And technically there was the one that was watching the baseball. But she was technically grouped with the grandmother group at the for the most part.
oh yeah, like I said, though, once that letter was read, that really did help, kind of, and Wabsuke coming back and all that, that kind of kicked everyone into gear. But yeah, it was kind of fun. The I guess.
So is that all the characters that we want to bring up?
I'm thinking at this point we probably get on to the production aspects. What do you all think?
Yeah, I think so. Well, there is one last thing I wanted to say was they don't really say what the guy who developed the AI. They don't really say much about what he does or like who he is because he lives in America. And at the end of the movie, there's a news broadcast where it's like, oh, he's a professor, and it's like, oh, okay, so he's kind of doing great. So because the way people were like regarding him, it was like, oh, are you some kind of like criminal on the streets? And no, he's a fucking professor.
Well, that's what do you think about him? He cut himself off from the family for 10 years.
Right.
And but really, I mean, one of the biggest defining scenes for him was when he was at the airport and he had that flashback of him and the grandmother at the airport way back, and he ended up turning himself around after getting the phone call to come back. I mean, he could have kept going, he could have left, but
everybody would have probably died.
and there's also the little thing that Natsuki is the one who gets in touch with him, and I think he had left his phone behind by accident, or something along those lines, and either that, but she got a hold of it, and she was trying to figure out the passcode to open it, and she finally did. She finally called him. He's like, "How did you get in touch with me?" And she's like, "You didn't forget it was grandmother's birthday. That's the passcode to your phone." So it's like
evidently left
there. What's that?
Which he had evidently left there somehow.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, that did show that he did care.
Yeah.
And of course, she was able to reach him, but yeah, I do think that he kind of was halfway there on his own. Probably he didn't really want to leave. He felt pushed out. So it was like, yeah, when they needed him, he was an interesting character. I do think there was a fair bit of development there. It does take a while for some of it to show through, which kind of helps you to see the family's point of view early on, I guess. But yeah.
So what did we think about the special effects of the animation?
Pretty great.
It's impressive.
Those fight scenes that they had between Love Machine and the other guy, I mean, some of those things that they did in Oz were really well done.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I always really liked those fighting animes, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm familiar with this. Sure.
The film is, in terms of the basic art for the most part, is very typical of Hosoda's films. He has a very distinctive art style. It's very typical. It kind of has a little bit of a Ghibli feel, but not really. It's kind of a realism mixed with a little bit of anime exaggeration, if you will. But Oz was mostly CG, and it was very bright and colorful, and it was a very different look from the rest of the movie. And so there was no question of knowing where you were. And I think a big part of that was more than any other film he did, he worked with Madhouse Studios on this. And Madhouse is known for that kind of vibrant, crazy production, if that makes sense. So I think that was an interesting. And apparently, Warner Japan actually was a production department on this. So I wonder how much of that was due to Warner's influence. Could have been that they gave him a higher budget to play with.
Well, what's interesting is that the real life city of Ueda, which was used for the setting of Summer Wars,
Mhm.
um, it was part of the territory once governed by the Sonata clan, and it was close to Hosoda's birthplace in Toyoma.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
I think that was by design, and again, I think that they had picked that particular city. I believe I'd read this to try and because of that particular plans.
apparently he based this family uh, uh, over the from the Sonata clan, which was based after a family called Janauchi,
Mhm.
which he had visited his then fiance's home in Ueda, and I think his fiance's family was part of that family. So
Well, Janucci, of course, is the main family name in the film, but I had also read that, or heard rather, I saw an interview that came on the disc I had, where Hosoda said that one of the inspirations for the film was meeting his fiance's family for the first time.
yeah,
And that was part of the whole bringing the fake boyfriend, or it could have been a real boyfriend, I guess, but bringing the boyfriend into this great big family gathering was partly based on his own experience because he wanted to capture that feeling of being an outsider in this totally different world. Yeah.
I I thought it was kind of cute how at the end the family wanted them to kiss, and he was like, and,
You're like, it's like,
his,
why aren't you dating? No, why aren't you married? And they're like, crowds of family members are like pushing them into each other.
And he passes out from a nosebleed, but she goes ahead and gives him a little peck. It's like,
See, how different would it have been if his friend had decided to take up the job instead of him?
might have been a little different.
I was worried that I was worried that the boy that was the hacker that ended up being that martial arts avatar was going to end up being a girl or something like that during the film at first, but because it seemed like them two were getting along, you know. So
Actually, it was a girl who voiced him, at least originally, Mitsuki Tanimura. But was it a girl in the English dub? I can't remember.
They usually do that for like younger kids.
It was, but it was kind of funny because I swear when I watched it again in July, I swear I misremembered it because there were tropes like that in anime where there was the character and you didn't realize it was a girl. Well, matter of fact, in the last week's episode, where we talked about a silent voice, where one of the characters they thought was a guy, ended up being a girl at the end.
Yes, Cosmo was voiced by a female in both the English and the Japanese version. So, yes, that's but actually that was one character we missed was the friend. What's his name? Sakuma, I think it was.
Too many names, man.
Yeah. So he was basically the other computer nerd who wasn't there on site but was helping them all along.
Yeah.
It's sort of he was tech support for their.
I really didn't think he was that big a part in it, other than maybe a provider of exposition for Oz.
A little bit, yeah.
And he didn't really have that much. He was a little bit at the beginning and a little bit in the middle, and that was about it.
He had a very old school pixelated avatar, which
I did like his avatar.
His avatar was pretty sweet.
But and then as far as other production things, the music overall was pretty good. I thought it was pretty solid. End theme was nice. Not anything right home about, but it was nice. Let's see. Score was by who was the score by here? Let's see. I don't know.
I actually liked the ending theme that they had for this. I can't remember the name, but it was a fun one. It was enjoyable.
Bokura no Natsu no Yume, which, yes, literally translated as Our Summer Dream. Let's see. Anyway, trying to think of any other important production stuff, but
I mean, the music itself, I thought worked well. I mean, to me, it fit what was going on. It accentuated the right parts and it executed it well. I'm not sure whether, I mean, the theme itself was kind of cool to have, but otherwise, I didn't really feel like it was something that I would necessarily listen to on my own, other than maybe the themes themselves, like the actual songs that they put in there. But as far as the music itself, I'm not sure I would necessarily listen to it on that one.
The music was done by Akihiko Matsumoto. So I don't know if that it bears any reference to anything that you guys might know. Yeah,
I didn't even notice the music really.
He does not have a whole lot of credits according to A&N. Not much at all. Huh. So maybe he does more live action work, or I don't know.
What about y'all? And Dustin, I know that you, of course, Katie's not here but she's the usual one that listens to the music. But you also tend to listen to a lot of the background music. Did you have any notes on that?
I actually didn't. For whatever reason in this, I was so engrossed with the story, like I didn't really notice the music. I mean, there were some like dramatic moment themes that they had, like when Grandma died. And that was, I remember, man, this is kind of hard. I think I remember like that piece, like the music like blended in to everything. Like I wasn't aware of it, but it was like subconsciously like setting a mood, I guess.
Right.
Well,
I don't know. I kind of punt on that one.
Well, here's something that might be interesting for you, Dustin. The guy behind the music, he also did music for Resident Evil Outbreak.
You know, I have not played or seen any of the Resident Evil stuff out there.
Yeah, I figured since you being
which is surprising to say the least.
Well, it is an interesting notion to realize, at least, that he had something to do with the music behind the game. So, but other than that, I wasn't I wasn't really paying attention to the music either. I probably would pay attention to it a second a second watch, because I would watch this again in the future, because of its a resemblance to Real Player One, which was a phenomenal film. So,
It's over there on the shelf. I just haven't gotten to watch it yet.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
No, like I keep having. It's one of those things. It's like, okay, we're gonna watch it tonight, and then something happens, and it's like, oh yeah, like, and I forget. Like, I bought it like the day it came. I bought it the day it got released, and it's just been over there, like in my giant pile of stuff to see.
Well, after you start with your pile of stuff that you're going to be watching after this discussion, put it on your to-do list.
Well, no, I think I'm gonna definitely move it up. Today was a pretty full day for collecting, because so today Avengers Endgame came out, so I went and picked that up, and then while I was there, I found the last copy of Detective Pikachu's like fancy steel book. So I got that. That was an awesome movie, by the way. I love that. I mean, I have like a huge history of Pokemon, so that's probably why. And then that Alita Battle Angel movie that was like totally sold out. Like there was a steel book for that, just kind of randomly sitting there. And
I picked that up.
The fan book. Well, the fan base that Alita movie has like online, because I kind of like getting involved in like political fights online. And the people that like Alita are like the really like hardcore, we hate Captain Marvel because she's a girl crowd. So all of them were like, go see Alita instead of Captain Marvel. So it's kind of permanently ruined for me. But the steelbook is very expensive on eBay, so I can make at least $20 hawking it. So hey. Well, I mean, this is an expensive hobby. We got to pay for it somehow.
As somebody who's seen the original Alita, it's I'm curious, but it would take a cheaper version for me to even bother watching it.
Alita was originally a cartoon.
It was based off of an anime. Yeah,
that's why others so, like it.
It's even the art style, the original art style had her looking like alien-like because they made her look anime with the huge eyes and such, but they reduced that a little bit. I know that much, but yeah. And I've seen the original anime and I've read the source material, but I'm still kind of leery about, because a lot of times when they adapt anime to live action, it crashes and burns hard. So I have a hard
Dragon Ball movie.
The original one, the original Dragon Ball movie is actually quite hilarious to watch, because it is, as long as you don't take it seriously.
I was going to say it's still pretty awful. But...
Oh, it's awful. It's a terrible movie, but it's hilarious.
Yes.
It is.
Oh.
I only remember like Dragon Ball. I still haven't seen Dragon Ball Evolution because everyone has told me to avoid it at all costs. And I remember I was reading an interview once with the screenwriter. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'd actually never seen Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, and I don't think I watched them when I was writing it." It's like, wow.
The anime films.
I kind of know the characters' names. That's good enough, right? Wow. Oh my god.
Right.
Good shit.
Getting kind of late here. Should we do favorites or anything?
Favorite scene?
I already did my favorite when, he confesses to, it's like, yeah, I created the virus that's, crippled the nation. And it's like, what? And she goes and finds this implement of war from feudal Japan and comes after him with it. I just enjoyed that so much. So, but this movie did have a lot to like, so go nuts, guys.
And like the scene where she's calling everyone and saying, "Hey, by the way, hey, you remember me? Hey," like she literally knows everyone, and she's just kind of not even really putting on the pressure, just kind of it'd be really nice if, that sort of thing. But
Prime Minister, yes.
yes. And then one little scene that we haven't mentioned just always makes me laugh. I think every time I've seen the movie, I've laughed. That's when they get to the house and he meets one of Natsuki's, I think it's Natsuki's grandmother or her great aunt. I'm not sure which, but she's Sake's daughter, and I can't remember her name. But he meets her and he's like, congratulations on your 90th birthday. And she gives this look of horror like,
It's my
you're
mother's
talking about my
birthday.
mother.
Oh. Okay.
That's an awkward moment.
I do that to people all the time. Like, I can't tell human ages, like, very well at all. I went to Flashback Weekend horror convention recently, and I met Sean Clark, the guy who does the Horror's Hallowed Grounds extras on, like, all the Shout Factory DVDs. And he was like, well, I turned 49 pretty soon. And I was like, really? And I'm like, looking at him, it's like, I thought you were like 35 tops. And he's like, hey. But I just can't tell, like, human ages. I am so bad at
If you're
it.
going to get the age wrong, give them an extra 10 years or so. I think in this case, he took away about 30.
Well, I used to work in an animal shelter, and my boss, she looked really, she was like a 4-pack a day smoker or something like that. And it's like, how old? And I was talking to a coworker, and the coworker was like, how old do you think our boss is? Like 45. She's 22. Are you sure? Probably shouldn't have shared that story. Wow.
I have to say my favorite scene was the part where Kenji turns around and talks to the grandmother about how much he enjoyed everything, even though everybody thinks he's the cyber hacker. By this point, it's a very humbling speech. So,
Yeah.
Anyone else?
My favorite actually is the there is a particular scene when the grandmother actually is calling all the people to arrange for, basically, she's got her, this is war. I am getting into this mode. And it just, to me, is an amazing group of scenes. So it just is an amazing thing to watch.
Okay. And Jake, you already said yours, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. I think on that note, we'll wrap things up here. So I think we've said everything that needs to be said, unless anyone else thinks that we've missed something.
Well, I'm just going to make a quick little footnote here. The one thing about this film that will always kind of rankle me a little bit is that this was a good example of the Oscars just totally messing things up. They had one movie short of having a field of 5 that year, and I do believe this one, Entangled, got robbed of nods because of that. But at any rate,
Oscars are always a mess.
Yeah, they are. They are, but it's
Like,
like
those guys only like art films.
I mean, Hosoda did get a Oscar nod. It just took a while longer. He got an Oscar nod this past year with Mirai, and that to me that is an amazing accomplishment, regardless, because you've got a Japanese film director that got a nod that is not Studio Ghibli, and is not even remotely related to Disney. That is an impressive thing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Alrighty. On that, I'm going to talk to Dustin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm a horror collector living here in Milwaukee while I go to grad school. And I have my own YouTube channel at The Crypt of Horrors. So where I try to just show off some of my collection. I do the same thing on Instagram. also at the Crypt of Horrors because we're, branding and stuff. And I hang out on Twitter as you guessed it, the Crypt of Horrors, pretty frequently. So, been pretty inconsistent with uploads, but we're working on some stuff to try and change that. Because it's been a pretty busy summer, but yeah, we're gonna try to do some stuff. It'll be a good time. Yeah, I think that's about it for me.
And I appreciate you coming on this week. I know anime is kind of outside your
yeah, I feel like I kind of outgrew a lot of anime in the last 10 or so years.
I thought I did too at one point in time, and my view has always been skewed as far as anime goes because it's cartoons. It's stuff.
Well, I mean, I've never thought of them as like cartoons. I actually hate the word cartoon. Like I wish that word would disappear. Like because it has such negative connotations to it. Like I hate it when people call stuff cartoons.
Animation.
That's better. Good.
Yeah.
Good work.
Animation, whether it's from another country or from the United States or from Uganda. I don't care which. Animation has always gotten a bad rap.
There's some movie, I think it's from Uganda. It's called Who Killed Captain Alex, and it is spectacular. It's basically somebody's attempt to make like action movies with no budget, with people they know using salvaged equipment, and it's actually it's a pretty sweet comedy if you watch it like that. And it's like, wow, this kicks butt. I love this.
I believe we were a DVD thingy that Something Weird put out, which shall be interesting. So, but going on to Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then Jake after him.
I'm Septum Sen of Septum Sen versus the World. We are a channel that talks about movies and other types of media, specifically, though, physical media. We're all about those DVDs and Blu-rays. We do various pickup videos. We talk about what's coming out in the community, and of course, we do top 10 lists. We do a entertainment podcast where we talk about a lot of the things we've watched, news items and such. We have gotten back into the lineup this week where we are talking about our normal basic pickups and news after the 100th episode that we did last week. So we're back into the swing of things, and I hope everybody enjoys.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm gonna check out. I gotta go take care of something.
Okay.
All right.
So, all right, like, share, and subscribe to our stuff. I think if I hit end call, it doesn't end for everybody, right?
Just log out. You should be able to.
All right. Still on?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Kotobuki Jake. I am a collector and fan of movies, anime, television, what have you. Other physical media as well, manga, CDs, what have you. I frequently guest on Septum Sin versus the World and have a lot of fun with that, of course. And looking forward to we've got some simple videos coming up soon, but they'll be fun. And of course, check out some of the big ones that we've done recently, like Brandon said. Of course, I do have my own channel, Kotobuki Jake, which is dedicated to nature and the natural world when I can be bothered to update it. I'm usually way too busy just recording stuff directly on iNaturalist and forget to do my little videos, but every now and then Obi-Wan. And then of course just enjoy doing this whenever we get the chance to. I know next week we'll be doing Your Name, yes?
Yes.
Yep. Next week.
And,
One still
and
open.
I believe I'm doing the lead on that one.
Yep.
So
Believe
that
so.
should be a lot of fun. Makoto Shinkai's modern classic film. Kimi no Nai no wa, I believe it is. But look forward to that. I certainly am.
Alrighty. And my name is David Streggy. Sometimes I host Inside Movies Galore. I'm the founding father of it, but it is basically a group for all of us to enjoy talking about films and whatnot, and we just have fun talking. From there, I do video reviews myself on Delusions of Grandeur. And sometimes I go on with Septum Sin and Kabuki Jake from time to time. And lately, I just did a interview with Tony Tex Watt, who has done a bunch of independent films, which I'm trying to edit to get out there. It's just I've got to clear my computer of erasable crap that I can get off my computer. So, in any case, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you've enjoyed our Anime August movie for tonight. So definitely check out Your Name, which we will be discussing next week. And hopefully you've enjoyed our journey through this anime episodes. So thank you so much. Have a good evening. Say goodnight, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
All right.